Triple-digit heat can be dangerous for backyard chickens, and if you're seeing your hens panting, holding their wings out, or looking tired and stressed, it's time to act fast. Chickens cannot sweat, and once they start overheating, things can go downhill pretty quickly. So in this video, I'm going to share exactly how to keep your chickens cool in the extreme heat, even without fancy equipment or power. I'll show you signs of heat stress to look out for, simple ways to cool your coop, frozen treat ideas, smart feeding tips, and the best heat-tolerant chicken breeds for hot climates. Whether you're dealing with a sudden heat wave or a long scorching summer, these tips will help your flock stay safe and comfortable. So first things first, how do you know your chickens are struggling with the heat? Well, if you're feeling hot and uncomfortable, chances are they are too. But here are a few key signs to look for. And the first is panting or open-mouthed breathing. Chickens cannot sweat, so panting is how they cool down. Next sign to look for is holding their wings away from their body. This helps them let airflow under their wings to release heat. You may also notice lethargy or low energy. They'll probably stop foraging and they're just going to hang out in the shade or near the water. Another sign of heat stress is pale combs and wattles. It's less common, but it can happen with prolonged stress. You may also notice a decrease in egg production, especially with an older flock of hens, or you may even notice some soft-shelled eggs. And the last common sign of heat stress is watery droppings. When you see these signs, it's a signal to take action fast because extreme heat can turn into heat stroke very quickly. And heat stroke occurs when a chicken's body temperature rises beyond what it can regulate. And since chickens cannot sweat, they rely on panting, seeking shade, and holding their wings out to release the heat. But if these methods aren't enough, especially in high humidity or extreme temperatures, their internal organs begin to overheat, leading to organ failure, respiratory distress, seizures, and worst case scenario, death. And of course, our hope is to prevent them from reaching this point, which is exactly what I'll be covering next. However, here are the important signs to look for right before heat stroke occurs. And that is extreme panting or gasping, lying down and unresponsive, flapping or twitching, pale or purplish combs and wattles, or closed eyes and heavy drooping wings. If you catch it in time, you'll want to cool them down gradually with cool water, offer electrolytes, and move them into an area that's shaded with plenty of airflow or even with the fan set up. But now let's talk about the 8 best ways in which we can help keep our chickens cool. And the first tip is good ventilation. Good airflow in your coop is one of the best ways to reduce heat. I leave my back door open. I use a wire panel on the front door to let more airflow in. I have windows and vents near the roof that let the hot air escape. The more cross breeze, the better. Next up is shade. If you don't have trees or natural shade, try using a tarp, umbrella, or shade cloth over part of their run. You can even grow quick vines like cucumbers or beans along a fence to add some living shade over time. It may even give your chickens a treat to peck at. And now perhaps the most important tip is cool, fresh water. In extreme heat, water warms up fast. So I have an automatic water that I splash out daily, but I also fill up an additional water that I refill at least 1 to 2 times daily during a heat wave. You can also add ice cubes or frozen bottles into their waters, and consider adding electrolytes every few days or once a week to help them recover from the heat. The next tip to help your flock through the heat is to cool down the coop and the run. If you don't have a fan or mister system, no worries. Every morning and sometimes again in the evening, I come out and hose down the dirt in the chicken run. It cools the ground and gives them a place to dig into the moist soil. Chickens love a cool dirt bath. You can also feed treats that are cooling, such as frozen grapes, peas, watermelon, cucumber slices, any water-rich fruit or veggie frozen into a block is great. Just don't go overboard with the sugary fruits. Another thing I love to feed my flock during summer is cooling herbs like mint. Mint is one of my favorite things to grow around the coop. Not only does it smell great and taste great, but it's also naturally cooling, so you can toss it into their water, scatter it around the run, or even freeze it into cubes. Other herbs with similar benefits include lemon balm, basil, and chamomile. They're all safe for chickens and can help reduce stress and regulate body temperature. The 7th tip is to be mindful of the feed. In summer, you actually want to avoid adding too much extra protein. Stick to a 16 to 18% layer feed for continued production, but reduce other snacks and protein-rich foods because the extra protein just means more digestion, which means more body heat. And now for the 8th tip, which technically only applies to those who are able to free range, but that's to let your chickens out early in the morning and again in the evening when it's cooler. Although if you're lucky enough to have a space where they can hide out in the shade and have access to water, then leaving them out might actually be the better option than even leaving them in the coop. So if you currently have chickens, those are all tips I would recommend implementing into your chicken keeping routine. And speaking of routine, I have a free chicken keeping checklist for you that gives you tips on daily, weekly, and monthly care for a healthier flock. So be sure to grab that in the description below. But now let's talk about what you can do if you're just getting chickens for the first time, or if you're considering adding more chickens to your flock. And in my opinion, the best thing you can do if you live somewhere with extremely hot summers is to get heat-tolerant chicken breeds. This can really make such a huge difference because they're bred to withstand that heat. So here are some of the best options. The first is a white leghorn. They're very hardy and very productive even through the heat of summer. Red stars are another great option, and they're a great layer. Silkies, despite their fluffy feathers, they often adapt surprisingly well, although keep in mind that silkies are not great layers and they are extremely broody. Welsummers are another great heat-tolerant breed. Polish, Andalusians, and Rhode Island Reds. And here are a few to avoid if you live somewhere that regularly hits triple digits, and they include Cochins, Brahmas, and most other feather-footed breeds. Although I will say that I typically have a few of these in my flock because they're some of my favorite breeds, but I just make sure that I'm diligent about helping them stay cool in the summer. And now I want to transfer to a few common questions I often get when it comes to chickens and the extreme heat, because if you're wondering these things too, you're definitely not alone. Question number 1 is, can chickens survive in 100+ degree weather? And the short answer is yes, they can, but it takes some extra care. If you have plenty of shade, airflow, and cool water available, your flock has a good chance of staying healthy, even in the triple-digit temps. But it's important to monitor them closely during heat waves. Here where I live, it's not uncommon to have weeks in a row with 100+ degree days, and my flock is typically fine, being that they get the correct care. Question number 2 is, what heat-tolerant breed is best? And so there's a few that I listed earlier, but if I could only choose a couple heat-tolerant breeds, it would be the Leghorns, which are extremely good layers, and Rhode Island Reds, which are also heat-tolerant. They're also great layers, and they handle the cold really well, too, so they're a great year-round bird. Question number 3 is it okay to spray chickens directly with water? And it's usually better to actually just cool down their environment than to spray them directly. Chickens don't love being soaked, but spraying the dirt in the run or setting up a shallow pan of water for them to walk through is great. Some might even step into a mist if they're hot enough, but what I usually do is just leave my hose on a slow shower setting, and I'll notice the chickens walk through it on occasion, but I don't spray them. I just let them voluntarily walk through the water if they want. Question number 4 is, what should I feed during the heat wave? So you want to stick with a good quality layer feed. 16 to 18% protein is plenty. Skip the extra protein and treats since those raise body heat. Instead, offer frozen fruits, herbs like mint or basil, or watery veggies like cucumbers and zucchini to keep them hydrated and happy. Question 5 is, do misters or fans really help? And yes, they do, especially in dry climates. A small coop-safe fan can move air, and a mister near their shady area helps lower temps. But if you don't have those, even just keeping the ground damp and offering lots of airflow goes a long way. So with all that in mind, remember, just a few small adjustments can make a huge difference for your chickens in extreme heat. Make sure they've got plenty of shade and fresh, cool water. Hose down their run. Offer frozen treats. Skip the high-protein snacks. Keep an eye out for panting or droopy behavior, and jump into action if you notice any signs of heat stress. And most of all, trust your instincts. If you're uncomfortable outside, your chickens are likely struggling too. I'd love to know, what are your favorite ways to keep your chickens cool in summer? Drop your tips in the comments below so we can all learn from one another. And if you're just getting started with the chickens or looking to improve your setup, I've got a playlist right here with some of my most popular chicken keeping videos, from creating a dust bath to handling molting season. So click right here and I'll see you there.